What is up, everyone? Coffee Break is back with another video. In this video, actually, I'm joined by Aaron from First and Faithful. I'll go ahead and leave a link to his channel in the description below. But yeah, we cover various topics from Garoppolo's future to the lack of leadership. We also get into a sneak peek of the Rams game coming up here. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the show, and feel free to leave comments. Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for reaching out, man.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Like I said, your channel was kind of the big reason I did mine with the pandemic and a lot of free time. I was like, I'm
Dope.
gonna do a channel. So, like I said, it was just I was why I followed for a long time, honestly, just because um, it's not a bunch of hot takes. So, I actually I like that. I've been watching football long enough, or I don't know. I don't like a lot of hot takes. It's like you can be a fan and still be realistic at the same time.
Absolutely. And
Um,
I feel
so
like I try to be realistic, which is part of the reason why, I started it. Is just like you don't need to be, Skip Bayless or whoever the hell. That just is blasphemy every time, right? You just got to be realistic. And I feel like you bring the same thing to the table. Like I've watched some of your videos, and I like what I'm hearing. So I feel like it was just a matter of time when we linked up. But so I guess I'll what I'll do is just turn off my camera.
okay, you got like a thing for a logo or something, I assume.
Yeah, I got
Oh yeah,
that.
there you go. Oh, sick. That's nice.
Yeah. Would it be okay if I call you Aaron?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Aaron, Aaron, it doesn't matter.
Aaron. I love that. I love Aaron. But we want to get into some questions. I guess we can start with questions you may have about what the hell has happened to the Niners this first 5 weeks of the
Yeah,
season. We looked at this team, of course, coming off a sort of Super Bowl hangover, maybe, but then you have all these injuries that I believe there was a number out there, 13 players on IR or something. Um, and the Rams have three. So that's kind of it kind of sums up where the Niners are, but at the same time, they're healthy in certain areas and they're really struggling, like offensive line. Like, if you want to touch on maybe the Rams game first.
yeah. I mean the O line. I think the offense is the one. If you want to give, I don't want to say excuses, but reasons on the defensive side, they're decimated. Not having Bosa, not having Ford has really just killed them. And then the ripple effect, not having Sherman, the corners. But on the offensive side, like what's going on? What happened to the line? I thought Trent Williams, honestly, I personally thought he was an upgrade over Staley. Um, Staley was great, but I just thought he was getting kind of up there. And I thought, wow, Trent's an upgrade. Like it's rare you lose someone who's a borderline Hall of Famer, replace him with someone who is better. Uh, the rest of the O line, Brunskill was good last year. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
McGlinchey, kind of the same thing, right? Like he somehow McGlinchey went backwards in pass block.
right.
He's always been good in run blocking, but pass block, I don't know if it's because he lost all that weight, but he has gone sideways.
Yeah, there's something to say about McGlinchey, and I don't know if you watched his press conference yesterday. Just speaking of, all these armchair quarterbacks, I think that's what he called folks on Twitter. I mean, I
Yep.
didn't take offense because I don't really care, but it just shows me that maybe we're getting into an area where the Niners are struggling with leadership. Like who are you looking at on offense, turning to, I guess, and saying, okay, you're gonna lead the way. We thought it was Garoppolo, but he got benched last week.
Right. Yeah, that's maybe where Staley, maybe underestimated his how important he was just in the locker room, maybe. Um, him and Sanders too. I just like you said, there is no. It doesn't seem like there's leaders. Like where, and I saw this on Twitter. I know a lot of people got on Brady last Thursday night. He comes up sideline, he's yelling at his teammate. I don't personally like to see that, but I gotta be honest. Maybe someone on this team needs to do that. I hate to
Right.
say that, but this whole we're friends and we're family and we're brothers. Like maybe you need Jimmy to lay into somebody.
Right.
When you see him getting tattooed out there, maybe that's what you need to see him. I don't know. I just don't see anybody. I don't see a fire that someone. I just want to see someone get mad. And it seems more they're mad at armchair quarterbacks than
Exactly.
themselves.
Exactly. It's like the lack of accountability that's coming out of the locker room, which is discouraging, when you're 2-3. Um, but then you touched on Emmanuel Sanders, which is a very good point because now it has me thinking, did we bring in Mohamed Sanu thinking he would probably have that ripple effect on this wide receiver core?
That's kind of what I thought he was going to be. He knew Shanahan's system, kind of like Sanders, and veteran leadership, and that just I don't know, man. I don't know. Part of it when you talk about you hit on it with the leadership part, I think it starts with Shanahan and kind of works its way down.
Yep.
I I don't know what happened because he doesn't seem to. I don't want to say he doesn't take responsibility, but he seems to kind of not take responsibility for anything out there. Like when the reporters ask him questions, he seems to kind of defer, and it seems to have a trickle down everybody else. Like I don't see anybody, even besides Jimmy, say, you know what, that's on me. I have to do better. Like everybody else just seems to be like, nah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Like, are
Exactly.
you? Like,
Right.
we all have eyes. We're all watching the game. 2-3 is not doing all right. Like, I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
It's different when you're 2-3, losing close games. Maybe, you coughed it up late and, anything can happen in the NFL, right? That's not what we're saying. What it comes down to is the way you lost the last few weeks. It's been like, what the hell? Like, where is this spark? We on offense, we have all the guys there. We're saying it'll be okay, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I heard you say in one of your videos, Jimmy was going to come in and fix things. He hasn't fixed anything. And granted, is because of this offensive line who's really struggling, but it's discouraging to hear them say, well, we looked at the tape, we're doing just fine. Like, we've watched this game long enough to say, uh, that's not fine. Like, that's below average. And the numbers show that.
That's I think the troubling part, like you says, how they're losing. That game last week was. Uh, it's been a long time since we've seen the game that
That badly.
bad on
Right.
both sides, and obviously like the injuries on defense. That finally the dam broke. I think you finally saw that. Brian Allen literally off the street, and you saw it. The dam just
Right.
broke, and then the offense just couldn't. And it was funny. I was going through the play-by-play, drive-by-drive. I was going back and I'm like, let me watch this. Let me go. And you saw they're getting chunks with Mostert. He's getting 5, 6, 7. I mean, he's eating it up. And you see, okay, Shannon's like, okay, let me mix up. Let me throw on the pass play. Almost every drive, you look at that first half, every time he went to a pass play, boom, it's a sack. And it just took him off the game script, right? Like, okay, well, now it's 2nd and 17. Well, there goes the run
Exactly.
game out the door.
Right.
So as much as you want to see more running, it's like every time we try passing, it's a sack. You're out of the game script. Now you're not going to run on 2nd and 16 or 3rd and 12. I'm not going to run on those. So it made the run game, threw that out the window. And obviously by halftime, that was it. Mostert was, forgotten at that point because
Yeah.
of the score.
Just had to abandon it. That's true. Um, well, you know, we're going to be talking about Jimmy probably a lot. And, you know, we're wondering now, is Jimmy like going to be the future franchise quarterback, right? That's how far it's gotten this year. Um, and so me personally, I mean, last year he showed us why he was a franchise quarterback. Like all you had to do, well, I'm making it seem like it's an easy feat, but I'm saying running the offense works efficiently and making the proper reads and whatnot. This year, given how much we just bashed this offensive line, it seems like he's just off. He's been off since the beginning. And I go back to last year, in training camp, well, in preseason, where Jimmy like threw, I don't know if you remember the report of he threw 5 interceptions in one
Yeah.
practice. He threw a pick six against Denver, I think, in that preseason game. He bounced back. I forget against who, Kansas City maybe. But it seems like Jimmy has a track record where he has slow starts, and this
Yeah.
year has been no different.
Yeah. I mean, you said like, and no preseason to kind of get some of that out of the way. Arizona, he looked, like you said, he looked off, right? He misses that. I don't want to say easy throw, but this a throw that Jimmy makes last year that would have probably won the game. That should have been touchdown to Bourne at the end, which kind of erases the bad start, right? He hits that, they
Right.
win the game. Who cares if the rest of the game was bad? He came in clutch, which Jimmy was really good at multiple times last year. He had kind of games, but he came in the clutch. The week 16 against Rams, perfect example. He
Oh
wasn't good.
yeah,
That final drive, he just clutched it out. And so it was like, well, that's all you can really ask. Now
exactly.
I don't. I mean, his best game was when he first got hurt against the Jets. That's like his two best quarters. Everything else has been mediocre at best. At
At best.
best,
Yeah,
mediocre.
this last game was really bad, and there was like a questionable drive. That last interception right before he got benched went into the half. They tried to, like, I guess, um, get something before going into half, and I just felt like they should have just took a knee, and come in the second half. But that led, I believe, to a field goal for Miami. But yeah, it's been a bad play. It's been very discouraging. Um, and if he was hurt, I said this in one of my last videos. If he was really hurt, I don't blame Jimmy for that. Who I really look at is Kyle Shanahan. Like, why are you putting? You should have your best 11 guys on the field at all times if they're ready to go, if they're suited up. And it also reminds me of Akilla Witherspoon. Like, why the hell is he on the bench if he can go? Like, if he's suited up, in my eyes, you're ready to go.
Yep.
Like, you can't half-ass NFL. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, well, just put me in emergencies." Like, who in the world does that as a player? Like, I
Yeah.
got a question, Akilo on that.
Yeah. That's like you hit it perfectly. I don't, and that like that goes to Shanahan, and that's where I think some of the coaching decisions. I don't blame him for the injuries. There's not a whole lot you can do about that, but just some of the decisions. You watch the game. I watched the game. Jimmy's clearly not even. He can barely push off his foot, and he's still like it. Just to me, it's like Jimmy's never going to probably say like, "Hey, I can't throw." Like he's a player. He's a captain. He's going to feel it's his responsibility to stay on the field. So as a coach,
Right.
that's why you have coaches to step in and be like, "Look, I'm the adult in the room to step in and say, you know what, or a corner guy in boxing. Look, I know you're getting killed. I'm throwing in the towel for you. I'm sorry. Like I care too much about you to let this continue." And same thing with Witherspoon. How are you only available for an emergency, but then you're able? That made zero sense, and I'm sure Shanahan. That one that's boggling. Like if
Yeah,
you can
you
play, you
can't.
can play. Either you
Yeah.
can't or you can. I don't understand. I don't understand. Again, it goes like you said, leadership. Like who
Yeah.
are? I don't know where Sherman is. You know, if he's even attending the games, I'm not really sure. But I don't know where the leadership is. Where someone maybe last year or previous years, or could you imagine that during the Harbaugh days? That would have never have happened.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, coaching has been questionable all year, and the moves are just baffling. You think Bill Belichick, all these top tier coaches, Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, are letting players come to them and say, you know what? I could dress up, but just put me in, sub me in if there's an emergency. When you're already down two corners, like, to me, I don't like, obviously we don't have insight what happens in a NFL locker room, but I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. Never. The only time I think of an emergency as far as football goes is you have an emergency quarterback. Where it's like, yeah, that guy's McKinnon is the Niners' emergency quarterback. Like that's the only time
Exactly.
you think of an emergency guy or an emergency kicker, like not an emergency DB. I've never heard of that in my entire life. I have heard of an emergency DB like
Yeah.
that is actually a DB. It, I don't. I don't know. I mean, going to Jimmy, I think a lot of people question. I don't know. Do you think he's on this team next year? They obviously have an easy out with the cap situation.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
what do you
It's
think?
anything can happen in an NFL. Even the best of players get cut, but it's so hard to evaluate this team right now. Like we don't know who they really are. Are they going to be, you know, the the team that they were 2 weeks ago, or are they going to be the team that came out and played in New York? So it's so hard for me to say this team is going to end up with so and so record because I don't know what I'm going to get on a weekly basis. It really depends, in all honesty, to me, how this team comes out on Sunday night. If they throw up a goose egg again for the third week in a row, um, those conversations of is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be the quarterback moving forward will be heightened even more at a higher level. And I'm not saying a win is going to cure that, but a win is going to put some DO over that for at least this week. Um, you know, And so I'm looking at it. I'm just like this game coming up against the Rams is monumental on how this franchise is really going to go. Which direction are they going to go? Because for me, it was hard. It was hard. I mean, you said it on Twitter. They're going to pull Jimmy at half, and they did. And so I found that as a huge surprise because I feel like you should never, in their right mind, pull your franchise quarterback for a backup. But if he was hurt, again, I don't know. If he was hurt, that falls on Shanahan even more. But yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was weird last week. You said it. A lot of people said it. Last week was somehow kind of a must-win game, which I don't know how many times you said after 4 weeks, where teams 2-2. This week 5 is somehow must win or as close to a must win as you can get. I think that kind of says where the franchise is kind of at, the team is kind of at, or was at going into that game. And then this game is even more important. This is, I don't want to say this is it, but like you said, they put the goose egg. The question becomes what happens to this locker room? We talked about lack of leadership, right? And starting with Shanahan working its way down. What happens when this team is too important, getting blown out in the media and the fans? I don't want to say turn against them, but start asking those hard questions. We've already started to see it with McGlinchey, some of the other players. Like, we saw it last year where they were having fun, right? Like Kittle's having fun, everybody's having
Yep.
fun. It was fun, everybody's smiling. And it ain't like that this season. And I have to wonder if this game goes south on national TV, prime time, what happens to this locker room? Like this,
Yeah.
does this locker room implode? That's
Uh
that's why I fear the most, honestly.
yeah. I feel like they won't, like, it won't be an issue, but it does, every week that we come out with a loss, it does make you look like, okay, where's the leadership on this team? We thought it was um guys who were already established, McGlinchey, right? I would have thought that McGlinchey would step up, not only like at his level of play, he's been very, very poor this year, but at least as a leader and just say, you know what, I'm messing up. I need to be better. We will do better as a unit. Um, but he didn't. That's the reality of it. And then we look at Trent Williams, who has also struggled, but then a week prior was saying, I didn't quite, I thought I played well. When we all know he had missed assignments. I mean, it led to sacks. So it feels like there's no, like I said, the responsibility. They're kind of deflecting the blame a little bit, and they're not taking full responsibility. And then if that's the case, then the actual leader, Shanahan, is going to have to say, like, be upfront with it. But I don't see that coming from this team at all, which is kind of disappointing in a way. And it proves more what they're really lacking, which is veteran guys. This team is still very, very young, and we kind of overlooked that because they made it to the Super Bowl. But the reality is, this is Shanahan's fourth year in.
Yeah.
A lot of people in that first draft are kind of gone. Like they had to, the second draft of the year is where they really settled in, and picked up key pieces to kind of rebuild on. But, in that first draft, it was hit or miss. Obviously, they got Kittle, they got something out of it. But yeah, there's been a very young team. And I would hope that moving into the free agency of 2021, they'll be able to pick up more veteran free agents to come in and sort of be the leadership on this team.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like I said, just kind of weird, and like I said, just last year you can tell they're having fun. And this year, I don't know if it's the expectations. I think that's maybe a big part of it. Like last season, I, no one was sitting there realistically saying, "Hey, this team's the Super Bowl. This team's going to be 10 minutes away from a title at the end of the year."
Right.
No one was thinking that. No one, And so I think they played loose, and it was just every week was like, "Oh, hey, we're pretty good," and it was fun going into
Yeah.
this season. And they started it themselves, the revenge tour. I really wish they hadn't done that. And I don't think they thought it was going to be easy. I just don't think they realized how hard it is to make it back. Like the famous saying, like the only thing harder than doing it the first time is doing it a second time. That's why
Yeah.
dynasties, especially in the NFL, are rare.
Right.
Patriots, that's it. I mean, when's the last time someone won back? I think the last back to back was 15 years ago, something like that. Like it's just rare to make it back. It's rare to win back to back. It just so many
Oh
things that
yeah.
happen. Injury here, injury there, done.
Boom.
You're done. Other teams
Yeah.
get better. It's the Rams are good again. The Rams kind of took a year off last year, and now they're back to
They're
being
back
kind of
into
how they were
swing.
2 years
Yep.
ago. You know, I mean, speaking of the Rams, what's the number one thing that needs to happen for the Niners to beat the Rams? I guess this Sunday.
Yeah. They're gonna face a team that's hitting on all cylinders right now. Like their offense is going, their defense looks stronger than ever. Um, Jalen Ramsey's playing out of his mind. Aaron Donald's playing out of his mind. They gotta start with um, keeping Jimmy Garoppolo clean as much as possible. Um, the sacks, Rams, I believe, are second in the league in sacks at like 4 a game, and Niners are like the inverse of that. They're one of the worst teams in allowing sacks. And so this plays right into LA's hands. And in order to at least try to compete with this team, you're going to have to keep Jimmy clean. Maybe it's more bootlegs, um, move in the pocket, get him away, get him stationary, roll him out, because honestly, every time he steps back, I feel like he's going to hit the ground every single time.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
getting the run game going, getting back to the basics. And on defense, honestly, I'm not very critical on the defense. That's the most banged up area, corner, edge rushers. I'm not sure if Quan Alexander is going to play in this one. He will be missed if
Uh,
he's not going to play.
I think Shanahan said he will not be playing the high ankle, so he actually might end up on the IR again.
Yeah, and so that's going to hurt the Niners. But honestly, they have a legitimate excuse because of the players they are missing. But it just starts with keeping Jared Goff, I guess, from scrambling. My goodness, this team just just allows quarterbacks to rush for yards.
Yeah. Well, that I think where you're seeing Bosa and Ford too. The biggest loss is both of them are quick, and Bosa's just an athletic freak where they can run people down. And
Yep.
Kerry Hyder, as much as I love Kerry Hyder, he has been amazing this season. That's not his game. He's not a guy who's going to run people down. Like Bosa can get out there, he can run people down.
Right.
Hyder, once someone kind of breaks that pocket, he can chase, but he's not going to get him. Where we saw Bosa, how many times we see Bosa last season, get after someone and just run them down from behind. Like that's and Ford too. They're just both really good. They're athletes, fast. And so yeah, like you said, keeping Goff contained. And I assume you're gonna see something like McVay did week 16 last season. He's gonna get Goff on a lot of bootleg, just one after the other, and really try to stress out the defense as much, especially depending on if Mosley plays or not. If they have some, if it's Barrett and I don't even know who's after. If it's Barrett and Witherspoon, do they just target Witherspoon all day? It's very possible. And then for offense, I'd love to see them go back to the motion plays, jet sweeps. They seem to have it's a lot less of that. And to your point about getting Jimmy out in space, like just that misdirection. Like, how do you stop Aaron Donald? You keep him guessing, right?
Yeah.
Like don't let him say, "Hey, Jimmy's going to take a 5-step drop. I just need to go right there." Get him thinking like, "Oh shit, is this a jet sweep? Is this a motion play? Or is this going to be Ayuk running?" Get him where he has to think,
Yeah.
where he has to take that pause. Anytime you get a rusher to kind of have to think for even a half second, that's a win right there. So I'd like to see just more of that, more of what we saw last season, the motion and like, is this a sweep? I don't know. Is this a play action? Maybe. Is it a handoff? I don't know. And where you saw the last season, especially the defenses just couldn't, they just didn't know where it was coming from, and it was the
Yeah.
same kind of motion or the same type of looking play, like a jet sweep motion, but there were 4 different things the Niners would do out of that. So you had to take a best guess. I'd like to see a lot more of that, and also some deep shots. Like I don't know if it's just a product of the offense or what, but I'd love to see Jimmy come out first series, get the run game, and a deep shot to Ayuk, something that just really a big play, something that
Yeah.
I think gives him the confidence, gets like something like that, something a big, I'd say it's the fans going, but we still don't have fans unfortunately, but something like that, a deep shot,
Yeah.
you know, get the defense open a little bit. I think people have kind of figured out like Jimmy won't throw it deep, so I think that coverage has kind of changed. Also, just Jimmy won't throw it past 20 yards, so you know we can play a different kind of defense. I just like to see that open it up more, make the defense have to guess. Otherwise, I don't know. It's not going to be good if the
Yeah.
Rams can kind of just key in and just be like, okay, go get them.
Yeah, we definitely got to play to our strengths in terms of running the football. Just give the ball somehow, some way to both Debo and Ayuk. Like those two players and Kittle are playmakers. Like we're talking about the Yak Bros, right? We haven't really seen a breakout game, but if now's the time, honestly, to break those players out and see what the Yak Bros can do. That's honestly our best shot.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the one thing last week we didn't see. Like Kittle barely got the ball. Ayuk, I think, had what 8 catch. Debo had like it just seemed like I think that was the most troubling thing about last week as far as Garoppolo. Outside the ankle, just he seemed gun shy. He seemed like he wasn't reading the field very well, or he like there was a couple times he looked like he could see the open guy and just wouldn't pull the trigger. Whereas last year, that was Jimmy. Jimmy was a sniper last year. I
Yeah.
mean, like there were throws out you're like, dude, don't throw that, and he throw it. But he had such a quick release and kind of a whip that he could get it there. He was a sniper. He just sniped.
Yeah.
And this season, he seems, even week 1, even the Jets game, he just seems like tentative. I don't know if it's the knee and the ankle, and he's just more worried about the line and getting just tattooed. But he just seems a little off. And to me, if Shanahan sees that he still seems that way, like you got to pull him quick. Like I'm, I'm sorry, but you got to pull him. And if it's
Yeah.
CJ that's the backup or Mullins, I think Shanahan hasn't said which one would be the backup. You got to get him in there because you can say what you will about Mullins against the Eagles, and it was bad, right? It was obviously bad, but he got it to people, right? Kittle had a career day basically. He got to
Right.
Ayuk. He at least was in theory making the throws. They weren't good throws. He missed juice on what should have been a touchdown, but he's making the correct reads. He wasn't afraid to pull the trigger. He just was a little off on his targets. So if Jimmy can't pull the trigger, if he's scared, like you have to. It's like a shot boxer, right? If you're worried about getting knocked out, you're gonna
You're gonna get
lose.
yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna lose. You should have boxers who get knocked out in that next fight. You can see when they're afraid of getting knocked out again, that's it. They're done, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. It's just like gets a little too happy feet.
Yeah,
Um, and then it just comes out inaccurate.
yeah, and I feel
Overthrows.
yeah, and you feel bad for him. Obviously, he's getting. I mean, just that one where he got blitzed, where Joel missed the block, he just gets. I mean, blindside. That was probably the
Yeah.
biggest shot he's ever taken. So I get it. I get why you're kind of like peeping around the corner like you're in a horror movie, but at that point, that's on Shanahan to say, look, I gotta get you out of there because if you're worried about your ankle or you're worried about hit, you're not reading the field, you're not looking, and you're hurting the team at that point. And that's it. I'd rather he just pull him quick, like a quick hook. Like if you can't do it, I'm gonna give you a quick hook. We're gonna go CJ or Nick, because Jimmy's clearly more talented than they are. But again, if you're not willing to pull the trigger, all the talent in the world's not really good.
Yeah. Well, um, I guess we can try to answer this question as best to our ability. You think the Niners are still a playoff team right now?
Right? No, no. And I said after week 4, just because of the O line, I don't. And that's the thing. Like these are all your stars except for Garland, who's actually played well at center, right? Like he's not been the issue. The one guy who is a backup has not been the issue.
The
So it's not
tackle
like,
spots are the ones
yeah.
that are really
And
giving
those
us
are your
some issues.
starters. Those are your
Those are
starters.
starters.
So
Yep.
yeah, it's not like Richburg comes back and it's like, oh, our line's great except for the center, who's a backup. And once we get Richburg back, we're fine. It's like Garland's been fine. So getting Richburg back, like maybe you can move Garland to guard and take over Brunskill. But like you said, the tackles, who's taking over from Lynchy, who's taking over for Williams if they don't get any better? I don't. Do you have someone better sitting on the bench than those guys? I doubt it, right? That's why they're on the bench. So to me, with that O line being like it is, and I just I don't see them as a playoff team, especially in the division, right?
Yeah.
Rams are looking good. Seahawks, I mean, right now they're staring up at the Cardinals, who, on the side note, are not very good, but right now are better than the Niners, right? Like just in their
Yeah.
division, they're looking up at all three. Never mind the Packers. I mean, if you go game by game on this schedule right now,
Brutal.
like who are they beating, right? Are
Yeah.
they beating the Patriots next week? I'm not putting money on that. Did they beat the Packers tomorrow? Probably not. Maybe the Saints. I mean, there's two games. The Cowboys and the Redskins are the two games. I'm like, okay, I like their chances there. Everybody else, they got the Bills coming to town. Like there are some. I mean, that schedule is crazy. If it was an easier
All
schedule,
playoff teams. All
yeah,
playoff teams are coming to town.
I'd say sure they got a definitely chance. Like if these first 5 games were the tough games, you're like, okay, it's all Jets and Giants the rest of the way. Yes, they definitely have a chance, but no, it's all the tough teams. They still have Seattle twice.
Yeah.
I just don't at this unless that line just magically improves. I don't see how, honestly. Just I said I thought 5-11, 5-11, 6-10 was the best they could do. I haven't And there's
Yeah,
nothing I saw last week that makes me think that there's any hope. Like, you can't replace Bosa. The defense, who's coming back that's going to magically change that defense? Sherman? Yeah, that's better. But if you can't get to the quarterback, and we saw that
that's
2 years
yeah,
ago, right?
that's the key. The Niners, though they have a lot of pressures, right? Eric Armstead, he's always in there with pressures. It just when you sack the quarterback is a different dynamic. And the Niners they get close, but they don't, obviously just like get the sack and then it leads to a, quarterback scrambling and extending the play.
Yep.
Um, and so, and the Niners going back to 2018, they struggled with that because they didn't have that elite pass rusher. When they got Bosa, everything just changed. So they're definitely missing Bosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the Niners are a team that maybe can muster up 3 to 4 wins, maybe 4 wins. But I don't see them going past 6 and 10 at the level that they're playing.
Yeah.
Um, they would have to show dramatic improvements on all levels in order for them to be a playoff team. That's
But
kind of where we're at with them.
yeah, I mean, with that defense being like it is, I mean, the offense is going to score probably 30 plus a game, right? And I just, with that O line, I just don't. It's kind of a counter because it's kind of how they want to win is by running the ball. But on the same time, it's like you kind of need to score a lot of points because your defense is just going to give up points against these better teams, against the Rams, Seahawks, Bills. Those better teams, you're going to give up points. You need to score 30 plus, but also to win, you need to kind of run the ball and control the clock. So it's like you can't do both of those. You can't score 30 points and be the old Harbaugh, Niners. We're just
Yeah.
gonna run, 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 run. Like those two don't drive. So that's part of the problem. It's like that defense. Like you said, they don't finish. They get pressures but can't finish sacks. So it's great, but I just that defense is going to give up points, and with that O line, just I mean, I don't know if Jimmy makes it out of this season. Just the amount of hits he's taken. Was it 40 hits they've given up already? 40 QB hits? I,
Yeah.
he may not make it out of the season, honestly. I mean, would you be surprised if he ends up on IR? He gets, more seriously hurt at some point? I won't be. Not behind that O line.
Watching this O line all year, it's just been any quarterback that they throw back there is going to get pounded,
Yeah.
you know. So something they got to clear up, and they're struggling in the trenches, that's for sure. And they really didn't focus on O line at all this kind of off season
Or corners.
or corners
Yeah.
exactly.
That
And
was kind of surprising, right? Like at some point you guys didn't grab some DBs or something? I don't know.
yeah, and now it's like biting them in the butt.
Yeah, and some of the blame is funny. The one guy who I think deserves some of the blame is John Lynch. Like you are the GM, you're part of the drafting process for all that. Like for the last two or three drafts, everybody's been saying like, hey, why don't we get some DBs? Why don't we, And that hasn't happened. O line, kind of same thing. And like you said, now it's biting them hard, and you're literally calling guys off of practice squads and off the street because there's no in-house talent that has been developed like that any depth. And I don't I don't know. Obviously we're not in the in the draft war room and whatnot, but that is now come
Yeah.
back to really. And that's last year they kind of got lucky that Mosley was able to step up. You kind of lost Wishman, Mosley stepped up, and you didn't have any other injuries this year.
Right. Right.
Everybody like Sherman was healthy like the whole year, so it was okay. You had enough depth to fill in just a couple of pieces. This year, it's a walking ICU room. It's everybody's out, and so now what do you do with that? So Lynch probably deserves a little blame here. Just like I say, he runs the personnel, so hopefully they address that. I don't know. I mean, that'll be it's going to be very interesting to see what they do this offseason. Obviously, I think aren't all their DBs, I think, are free agents, correct?
All the I mean, I'm looking
Except for Ward, right? I think
everyone.
Ward's the only one under contract.
Yep, that is exactly right. I mean, everyone's a free agent, and this team is going to look, at least this defense is going to look completely different than
Yeah,
this year.
right. You have to figure Quan's probably gone. Ford may not play again. The fact they haven't said anything about him with his
Right.
bad back, I don't have any hope that he plays again. Period. Let alone for the
Yeah.
Niners. This defense, I mean, it's gonna be Warner, Greenlaw, and Ward, and Bosa and Armstead. That's gonna be it. Everybody else might be a defense that returns. It's gonna be opposite this season, right? They went to this season was like 19 to 22 starters came back. It's next season may be the opposite. It might be like 10 of the 22 starters have returned.
Yeah. They need to stop trying to like I guess when you draft a player, you kind of fall in love with that player.
Mhm.
But I feel like a lot of teams hold on to players for far too long than they should. Dante Pettis.
Yeah, I was about to say Pettis.
Dante Pettis is obviously the name that always comes up. But it's so like it's questionable of the decisions that you make. I don't know, is it because they know the system very well, so they very plug in play type of dude, but they
I
have not contribute at all.
And
Like,
they
what's the
traded up
point?
for him. They traded up for Pettis. That's the part that hurts the most. Like you traded up for Dante. You traded up for CJ Beathard. Like you wasted draft capital for these guys that you know. Oh, that's the part that hurts the most. Like you wasted draft capital to get Dante Pettis, who was a healthy scratch last week, and I assume probably will be this week too. Like, holy crap, that's yeah. Like you said, they get kind of enamored with players, and the thing is like if you're done with them, get rid of them, right? Like I mean, see what you can get for Dante
Yeah.
Pettis. Is there a rusher? Ryan Kerrigan from the Redskins. Can you throw Pettis and like a late rounder at Washington for Ryan Kerrigan, a good edge rusher who probably has like a 1 year left in the tank, but that's all you need him for? I mean I don't know. I'm sure Lynch is making calls, but like clearly Pettis is done. He needs a fresh start. Like just I don't know why they kind of hang on. Like he's done. Like just him away. Like it is kind of boggling to me personally. It's kind of weird. I guess one question I did have: do you think Sala is giving too much blame
For this past game or just in
in
general?
in general? Because a lot of the fans, I mean, you see on Twitter, a lot of fans are like Sala sucks. He's not a good
Yeah.
coordinator. I mean, I think that's bull, but I did want to hear what your take was on it.
Um, I feel like Salah, he doesn't deserve like the amount of blame that he's getting. Um, because like honestly, defense is the only area on the team where I can look and say, they do have a lot of injuries. I can see why, they're not performing to the level, even though the defense hasn't been the problem, the real problem here. I mean, outside of last week where they just kept throwing fades to Brian Allen, but in reality, no, I don't think he deserves the amount of blame that he's getting. But for this past week, I do think that, um, you leave a guy who's just given up 3 touchdowns and, clearly the Dolphins game plan is to target the young man,
Right?
and you don't do anything like pull the trigger and put in the sub. I don't even care if Akello isn't ready. Just like force him to be ready at
Yeah,
that point.
anybody, somebody. It can't be any worse.
To
Yeah.
various more like put somebody else, because at this point, you know, we get to the point where you do have a lot of injuries, and you're just like, screw it. I don't have any more players. Like we're gonna have to do it with what we got. I
Yeah.
feel like it was at that point last week, and they just kind of left them out there to die, essentially. until
that
it
poor
was
man
like too
sold.
little, too little, too late. You
Yeah,
know?
that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I, I'm with you on the solid thing. People are like, oh, he's not good or he's overrated. I'm like, you have to have good players. Like, you have to have a good scheme, but you have to have players that fit the scheme, and top players make a scheme better, right? Like, it's not.
Yeah,
It doesn't take a genius to figure out that having Nick Bosa and a fully healthy D Ford and Buckner and Armstead and a fully healthy, like, it doesn't take a genius to figure out, like, oh yeah, man, is that why the defense was good last year? Weird. Like, like, show me a good defense. I'm going to show you some players that are really good on that defense. Belichick ran the Giants defense back in the day. Like, he had this guy called Lawrence Taylor, really good.
yeah,
Like, it helps when you have quality players. When you're going off of your third, fourth, I don't even know if he knows any of these people's names at this point. Like Brian Allen, who is that? I know when they announce, I'm like, who? Who?
yeah.
Who? Like, I'm going, I'm on Pro Football Reference. Like, where
Who?
is this? Is this a rookie? Like, who is this guy? Like,
Right.
when you're at that point, like, I don't know how much you want solid to, like, I don't care how good your scheme is. If you're using third and fourth stringers, it's in the NFL. Like, I'm sorry, but this isn't college where you can sometimes get away with that if you just have really good athletes. NFL is not that way. If you have a weakness, an easily exploitable weakness, because you're literally throwing a guy who's off the street at cornerback, you are SOL at that point.
Oh
And you
yeah.
saw it, right?
I
Like,
saw. You know,
it's magic.
I was very critical at first with Saleh. Back in 2018, defense was horrific, but you quickly learn like, okay, the following year you get some playmakers. Nick Bosa being the obvious one. Remember when everybody was trying to just run Jimmy Ward out of town because he was never healthy.
Oh yeah,
Um, and then Jaquasti Tart. I mean, you have these players who have been here for a very long time, so they know the system. And at that moment in time, the fan base, or at least the majority, were just trying to get rid of these players. Like they
yep,
haven't done squat. But to Salah's credit, he's like, these are my guys. I'm gonna stick with them and pay dividends. Last year, when we did have somewhat of a full squad. So yeah, like to your point, it does matter when you do have playmakers on defense. We saw what Salah can do when he does have them, and so this year's a little bit of an exception because of all the injuries.
yeah. Especially with defense, I feel like offense. I mean, anybody who plays fantasy like there's so many guys you can kind of plug and play. I hate to say about the offense, but it is kind of that way. Defense, there are maybe a handful of game changers, right? There's Aaron Donald, there's a Nick Bosa, like there's very few of those guys, right? I feel like offense, like there's just a lot of, because more, I think offense is more scheme based, right? Like you saw, was it Chase Claypool last week? Who was he? Boom, 4 touchdowns, or Fulgham. I feel like offense is just so scheme based. There are game breakers in that, but defense, you have only a handful of true, legitimate game breakers. And when you lose that guy from your defense, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Really, really, those guys who just you can just depend on. Like, what would the Rams be if Aaron Donald got hurt for an extended period of time? That defense would go sideways,
Oh yeah.
right? I mean, he's everything. You lose that guy, 2-time defensive player of the year, like that everything slides sideways. Jalen Ramsey doesn't look as good because I'm not getting the pressure, so I now have to cover for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, not half a second. It changes everything. So Salah not having those guys, it would, I think they've done, except for the Miami game, pretty well, all things considered. I mean, just it is what it is, and that's where the offense needs to step up. But they have their own issues with the O line, so football is the ultimate team sport, right? The offense
Yep.
feeds the defense, and vice versa. If one half isn't good, it affects what the other half can do. If your defense is giving up 30 points a game, it really stresses the offense. If your offense can't score points, that really stresses your defense. It really is that team it really is that team game. You can't ISO, can't put LeBron out there and it's like, hey, just go one on one and just do what you do. We'll be fine. You cannot do that in football.
You're right.
So I hope they turn around, right? I mean, like we all hope, but I don't see where the hope like there's no one coming through the door. And I think why I'm a little more pessimistic than I would be because it's like, well, who's coming through the door?
Yeah.
That's going to change this. Like even Sanders, like Sanders last season, like he came in and the team was like, dude, they were like 6-0 when they got Sanders. Like they were already, it's not like they were 1-4, they got him in exchange. Like they were
Yeah.
already doing pretty damn well. He just kind of helped put them over that top. It was, I don't know who you could get that would turn this around, like unless
Yeah. Especially like this year, because we don't know what
yeah.
the salary cap is going to look like next year.
Yeah, next
Um,
year's gonna be weird, right? I mean, who knows what that
yeah.
cap's gonna be like? Is Jimmy around? Obviously, they can save a lot of money, but who's better? A lot of people saying, "Hey, get rid of Jimmy." Like, for who?
Right.
Who is out there? Like, uh,
If, I'd say this. If you're getting rid of Jimmy to get Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan, to me, that's a lateral move.
yeah,
Like, it's not improving the team whatsoever. It's already what you have. Like,
yeah.
give Jimmy a great defense, a good run game. He's gonna, take you to the Super Bowl. We saw what we did last year, right? So if they're gonna switch out quarterbacks, it's gonna be someone from that's playing in college,
Yeah.
and even then, like I would assume Shanahan will draft someone and just have them learn the system for a couple years before making that switch. So it does make it more difficult. Um, so I think honestly they keep Jimmy for what
I
it's worth.
I I've gone back and forth. I've come your way of thinking. I think the same thing. I think they draft a quarterback next year. Obviously, depending on where they end up in the standings, could be a high draft pick. Who knows? But and I guess you hope one of two things, right? That quarterback develops into someone great, or in the meantime, you draft that quarterback and the lights a fire under Jimmy, like you see with Rodgers. They drafted Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Rodgers was clearly pissed about
Yeah.
that. One thing I love about Aaron Rodgers, I watched him a lot in college because I used to live like right down the street from Dallas. I saw him a ton in college. I love that guy. Is he wears it on his shoulder, and he was very upfront. Like, yeah, I was pissed off about that. And you see him; he is playing out. He's playing MVP Rodgers level, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a move that everybody was like, "Why did you draft Jordan Love?" Now it's like that was a genius move. Holy shit! Like
It
I'm out
lights
here playing.
a fire under you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing checkers. Y'all playing chess. Like wow. Like and that's So I guess for me that's drafting quarterback, you hope you get that, right? Like either Jimmy's like, hey, nah, screw that, and he gets motivated, you get the best out of Jimmy. And in the meantime, you're developing a guy for the future, right? You're always trying to keep an eye towards the future.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's to
think that
me, yeah, I've come to your way definitely of they draft somebody, keep Jimmy, and like Bosa comes back next year, right? Knock on wood, but Bosa should be back. You should get some pieces back defensively. The offense should be,
resign
yeah.
Kerry Hyder, by the way.
Oh my god, the offense should be. Debo will have another year under the system. Ayuk will be a sophomore. Kittle another year. Like there should be improvement there as well. So I look to next year. I'm like, this could be a really quick. This could be for me, the Niners could be like the Rams. Went to the Super Bowl and had kind of an off year last year because they got hit with injuries. The O line was decimated. It kind of worked the same. And then this year, you see everyone's healthy again. And wow, weird how that happens. I can see the same thing for the Niners. This year kind of goes sideways a little bit due to the injury. Next year, they're healthy. And then you see them right back at the top, right back competing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because, with health, they get, Bosa, like we talked about this year, who's coming through the door? Nobody. Who's coming through the door next year? Nick Bosa's coming back. So,
Yeah.
which as we see
It'll be
changes everything.
yeah, it'll be an easy for me. It'll be an easy way for um the front office to just hit the reset button really quick and then just reload, because that's
Yeah,
honestly what they can do. Um,
exactly. It's a reload. Exactly.
yeah, just like because we did touch on, secondary is going to look completely different. I feel like
Yeah.
may not re-sign Sherman as I hope, just because of his age. But honestly, they will need a veteran player players to come in and just sort of run this locker room with, who's already there: Fred Warner, Kittle, Jimmy. So yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
I like to see that guy, like, obviously, Fred Dean, rest in peace, passed away today. Like, kind of what he brought to that team when he came in, right? Veteran leadership, that fire, and you saw it, help take them over the top, right? Won 2 Super Bowls with them. Like, he provided that, right? I don't know who that would be, in the off season. Who knows who will be available, but definitely for the front office, I think, like you said, you have to key in on a couple of those vets that can come in that may not be stars, maybe more specialists, kind of like Fred Dean was. He was more of a pass rushing, just kind of specialist. You know, those guys that come in but can control the locker room, can really, get the best out of the guys, provide that leader. Kind of like Sherman did when he came in, right? Like someone everybody looks up to, like Super Bowl, he's been to the top, you know, someone that everybody respects, everybody will listen to, but
Yeah,
it still produce on the field as well. Like I said, I don't know who that is, but definitely, like you said, keying on a couple of those guys on defense, and maybe somebody like that on offense. I don't know who that is, but like I said, I like to see somebody just get as much as Kittle loves to dance around. I like to see him channel some like into some anger. I want to see him slam his helmet. I'd love to see him
yeah,
come out this island, just slam his helmet, just one time, just be like, I'm tired of this BS. And slam his helmet, like
yeah,
just do that. And kind of, I think, wake the guys up. Like, everybody's dancing, everybody's having fun, and it's like, dude, it's the fun times are over. Like,
right.
it's time to butt up now. Like,
I think you touched on something. Kittle does lead, right? He is a leader. He leads kind of by example with his play. But I think there's different types of leaders. And right now, what the Niners need is someone who's more vocal up front, kind of like Sherman. They're kind of really missing Richard Sherman. He would be
yeah,
straight up with them.
oh,
Um, and just like say, this is how what's championship football, and we're not playing like it. So I really think Sherman's absence is what's missing. But even with him back, I feel like they still need someone else.
yeah, I definitely agree. Just that, yeah, somebody just kind of put a boot in the butt. Just I love the team. I love how much fun they always seem to be having, especially last season. They just seem to have fun. That was great. But sometimes there's a time for play and there's a time to get serious. And it's like now's the time to really, like, y'all buckle up because there's some jobs on the line. Like that to me, that's how I look at. Someone posts on Twitter like, should Jimmy be playing for his job this weekend? And I responded, I said, to me, every player on every team should be playing for the job every game. You should be playing for your job
Yeah,
because there's always someone looking for your job in the NFL. There's always a backup who will gladly take your job. The front office, the
exactly.
coaches, they're always looking for someone better, right? So to me, it's like it's time to stop dancing, time to get serious. If you're Bourne, if you're Kendrick Bourne, if you're Trent Taylor, if you have to be thinking like you might not have a job after this season, right?
Right.
Because like you have to step up. If you're Daniel Brunskill, you may not have a job. Like, if you want to be an insurance guy, great. But if you want to continue to be an NFL player, like it's time to put all that aside and buckle down now, basically. Like I'd say there is no tomorrow. Like you have to buckle down now. Otherwise, this season has potential to go to be that 2018 season where it went sideways. It has the
Yeah.
potential to be that, and like you could be looking at a 3-13 season very easily, unless you buckle in. Like I just want to see him be competitive, right? Isn't that what you're watching? Like, hey, you may lose, and I kind of expect that because of the schedule, but don't give up. Don't
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. Like that will be. I want to see him lose the locker room. I want to see
Yeah.
Shanahan lose the team, right? Like that's what you're like. Clearly, people quit on Dan Quinn, right? Like, clearly, the Falcons quit on Dan Quinn. Clearly the Texans quit on Bill O'Brien. Like, that's what you don't want to see. Like, I want to see the vet step up and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you
I
may
think
lose, but let's
I
go out
think
swinging."
yeah, I think they're far removed from that, but like you said, we just need those players to continue to give effort, not put their head down. Like you said, they were having fun last year. Everything was all fun and jolly, but this year they've hit a rough patch. So that's why I'm like looking forward to see how they respond. Even if they lose, how they lose will matter
Yeah.
to me.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Is the effort there? Is the fight there? That's why I just want to see the fight. Like if you lose, that's fine. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say it's fine, but understandable. But let me see that like you're not taking it lightly. Stop with this. Oh, I think we're playing fine. Like, dude, you're 2-3. And if you lose this game, you're 2-4. I don't want to hear anybody say we're doing fine. I want someone
Right.
to yell at the press conference and say we are doing terrible. Our record, what did Bill Parcells said? Like you are what your record says you are. Like
Yeah.
like you can't be 2-4 and be like we're doing fine. I'm blocking fine, guys. What are you watching? Like you cannot. I swear, if I see that if that happens again this week, there's gonna be some serious issues. I think.
Yeah.
Like, step up.
Definitely.
Someone needs to get angry. Like, pound the table. I don't care. Just, let me see the fight. Like, it's not always going to be easy. If you're only going to kind of get up for it when it's easy, like that, you know, it's just the NFL's not easy. Occasionally you have that season where everything just worked out beautifully for you. But most of the time it's a grind, right? Like that's just the way it is. So 1 week you're up, 1 week you're down. You have to
Yeah.
weather the storms.
Exactly. Well, man, we've been going at it for an hour now.
Oh, oh yeah.
I feel like we should do this more often.
Yeah, for sure. Let's definitely do it. If you're down for next week, I'm super down. Um,
Yeah, let's post on your channel. Did you
okay.
wanna maybe go in after the game? Get
Yeah,
like reactions?
yeah. Yeah. Hit me up Sunday, and definitely we'll set it up, and then definitely do
Yeah, I
something
started
similar.
last week I went live for the first time.
Oh, did
So
you?
yeah,
Nice.
I might do that like a quick sesh. But then yeah, we could hop on your channel, do the same. I'd love to have you back next week. Hopefully we're not talking down on them as much.
I hope not. I hope next week. I hope we're both saying, man, we were wrong.
We were
Holy
dead
crap! This is
wrong.
a Super Bowl team again. Like that's every week. That's why I hope. Like it's like I don't like talking down on them, but you have to be realistic. And it's like they play great. I'm more than happy to be wrong about them. When I say the Niners aren't doing well, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. Like please prove me
Yeah.
wrong.
Right. Exactly. Me too. I'm just like, I hope they prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me, man.
And so that is Aaron from First and Faithful. I'll link his channel in the description. I'll also have a card there in the video, so people could go ahead and watch your videos and what you post. Appreciate it again, man. We'll link up again.
All right. Thanks, man. Have a great one.
Have a good one, man. Peace.